Okay, thank you. Clap, everyone. Okay, so let's just dash right into it. What do you guys look for when someone comes to you with a project that they're pitching? Shall we start from ladies first, I think?
Oh, start from a lady. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lee Jun. I'm from Jun Pictures. Let me briefly introduce our company.
Sure.
What do we do? So Jun Pictures is a production distribution company that develop and finance films, mostly working with commercial films, but we also invest in foreign language films that has big potential in Chinese market. And we also work with young upcoming directors from China for low budget, but mostly we're working with big budget movies in China.
What kind of budgets are we talking about?
For commercial ones, it can range between 6 million to 50 million US dollars. And for small budget, will range from 1 to 1.5 million dollars.
So still pretty sizable then. So, we'll just start with the question first, and
Okay.
then we'll move on. So we get nice time for everyone. So what do you look for in a when someone pitches to you?
So our company is a producer slash financier. So we're kind of a bridging between the financiers and the production. For us, for the commercial ones, we are looking at IP, which means we know that's known IP and we can develop into a very quality contents that could be potential score big at the box office. But for low budget, we're specifically looking at scouting talents, which means directors and screenwriters. And if they have a really good script and concept, we're most likely to invest and bring a better package. Yeah.
That's a great pithy answer. Thierry, over to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chihiro Ba. Do you hear me? Yeah.
Just switch on the thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chihiro Ba. I'm coming from the French part of Switzerland, and I don't know. I'm not really a financier. Maybe it's because I'm coming from Switzerland and because of the banks that I'm here on the stage. But basically,
you cannot say that you're from Switzerland. You're not financier.
I don't have the keys of the banks, of the Swiss banks, unfortunately. I'm the artistic director of pretty old festival, Fribourg International Film Festival, which was one of the pioneers in Europe to screen Asian, African, and South American movies at the time where only some Akira Kurosawa's movies were screened in Europe. And I'm also this year president of the Swiss fund Vision Sud-Est. It's a fund from the Foreign Affairs in Switzerland, and it's dedicated to the same kind of countries, Asia, Africa, and South America, in exception of some countries like Singapore, Japan, South Korea, because it's coming really from the Foreign Affairs, who considers that we should, for the question of living democracy in the world and the happiness of the people all around the world, that we should help people to have water, to have food, and to have movies. So the money of the fund is coming in this way, you know, and basically as artistic director and as expert in the fund, I am looking first for some kind of artistic quality. I have a lot to say to you because the last session of Vision Sud-Est was a few weeks ago, and we noticed some facts about what the projects coming from Asia that could be interesting for you.
Okay, we'll definitely talk about that. Yeah. Pencil that down for later. Dhruv, please, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Dhruv. I'm part of Reliance Entertainment. We have been into movie making business since 2008. And till date, we have made 175 films, not including production that goes on in Hollywood, which is with Amblin Partners, which is Steven Spielberg's company. In India, it's been a journey for us. Let's be honest. We started off thinking that we knew everything, and we went around investing in projects. Some were good, some were not so good. Invariably, we ended up doing the right thing as we believe since 2015. We have invested in three companies which are owned by film directors. So we have invested in talent itself, right? Now, as far as the new projects or anything is approached to us or anybody in the three companies or anybody in senior management, we look at the project and we divert it toward either of the three companies,
Right.
because all of the three are different kind of filmmakers. One is art house, one is semi-commercial, and the third is absolute commercial films.
Could you, for the benefit of the audience, could you tell us the three companies?
The art house and noir films are Anurag Kashyap's Phantom Films. The semi-commercial films are Neeraj Pandey's Plan C Studios, and the commercial is Rohit Shetty's Rohit Shetty Productions, which is a hardcore commercial filmmaking company.
Okay. So when a producer comes to you or a filmmaker comes to you with a project, does he or she get to direct the film itself, or does it get sent to these film directors?
Not necessarily. They can make the film on their own. It depends on their experience and the kind of investment that it requires.
Okay.
And all of these three production companies have aspiring directors working with them.
Right.
So in a way, we have an access to around 10 to 12 directors.
Right.
Like each of them has 2 to 3 very experienced assistant directors who have a project, who have a dream, and we hopefully want to put money where it really matters.
Right. Okay, that's good. And what kind of budgets do you look at in terms of?
Again, as I said, all the three differs from $500,000 to can go up to $30 million.
Right.
Depends on where and what we're doing.
Okay. So, Jeremy, your turn. What are you looking for?
Hi, I'm Jeremy from Aurora. We're based in Singapore. We have a predominant footprint in Southeast Asia, but we do projects from around the world. We probably do projects for 2018. I think we're looking at 6 to 8 projects. From the smallest would be maybe $500,000, and the largest would be maybe 15 US dollars. In terms of looking at projects, since we are doing this convention at this beautiful casino, let's talk about, let's use gambling as the
Metaphor.
example. Yeah, as a metaphor. So, okay, if you guys play poker or blackjack, so we've got 5 cards. So the first is the producer card. Is your producer card an ace or a 2? So then the second deck of cards would be, the second set would be your director card. Do you have an ace? Do you have a 7? Do you have a 2 on the, on the category? Then we look at your casting and your script. So producer, director, casting, script. And the 5th category, that's our secret sauce. Yeah, only Dhruv knows. Only Dhruv knows. So when you assemble your project, we're going to look at it. If you have like 3 aces or 4 aces, that's pretty much quite compelling, right? So if you have 4 or 5 aces, you're going to have people fighting for your project. But if all you have is a hand of 2s and 3s, then you should start trying to strengthen it. Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then the question is this: because all of you approach financing in a different way. I mean, independent film festival, practically a studio, and venture capitalists. So, what are the common mistakes that you guys see? The common mistakes. Yeah. The biggest mistakes that you get.
Well, a common mistake that we did was thinking that we knew what project is good to back it, and not taking professional advice on the same. Like right now, if a director says or a storyteller tells, this is good, we should go with it. By just being from a corporate sector, someone comes and says, this looks good on Excel sheet, that this 4 columns are going to be so much, and those 6 columns are going to give you X number of money. If you look at only that, then you're making a mistake. So we're looking to hone the talent of the filmmaker and the professionals.
But surely there's something to be said about, filmmakers not knowing everything, and sometimes you need a corporate bottom line guy to say, well,
correct. We are not denying that, but only thing is we can only push that much. We can only talk about if a person wants to make a film he or she is not very good at. Like
Right.
the person has been making $500,000 film. You
Right.
suddenly give him a $30 million film.
Right.
Well, there are some results that are out there, without naming anybody, there have been big disasters. So we have to know what and who to give what.
Right. Okay. The rest?
Is it about our mistakes or the mistake we
Well,
we just noticed?
The funny thing is that I was thinking more of the mistakes that people make, not you guys. But since you're talking about it, we should
Yes,
also maybe
sure.
talk about both sides.
I would say The experience of the last session of Vision Fidesz, so Vision Fidesz, to be more precise, is a fund for production, and we give up to 50,000 Swiss francs. It's almost the same as euro or dollars. And for post-production fiction, we give 20,000, and for post-production documentaries, 10,000. At the last session, we had 200 projects coming from everywhere, and I can tell you that half of them didn't fill the application properly, and they were eliminated, half of them. And I can tell you also that the great majority of these applications eliminated came from South Asia.
Is that a language issue? What is going on
No,
there?
it was really, I don't know, usually it's the producers who are feeding these things, and I don't know how they believe that we will take a synopsis as a script. For example, a lot of them are doing that. It's in three languages, French, German, and English. The most useful is English. But I don't know why. Even the budgets are not clear, and sometimes they are announcing things, just with one email we can have the confirmation that it's a fake, And
sorry,
they
explain
are
a bit more about
trying,
this.
they are trying to have the money from this kind of funds, filling the applications with fake news,
Ah, okay.
And but we are not stupid, and it's bad, It's bad because sometimes we discovered that the synopsis, if we have only the synopsis, can be interesting, but it's eliminated. Because we are in Switzerland, and even for when we say it will be the next deadline, 28th of February, it's 28th of February, 5 p.m. when the post is closing. The post office. It's really Switzerland, and at every time we have over 200, we have 10%. Calling and saying, listen, I had 3 hours late because my mother was sick, I was stuck in the traffic and things. And it's really a question, because we are concentrating on countries who are developing cinematography, like Laos, for example, or Bhutan, or these countries, or Philippines too. To me, it's a question of professionalism of the producers. Because artistically, I can say that it's here in this part of the world that the most important and the most interesting cinema is produced nowadays for, let's say, 5, 7, 10 years maybe. It's really here that it's happening. The creativity is here. A lot of countries are opening. They have, the artists have a lot of stories to tell. Because cinema is now completely democratic. Everybody can make a movie with an iPhone. And the question now is how to make that the producers are, more, are considering these things more professionally. Right, because, it's just not like giving money like that.
Yeah. It seems like a common refrain, even from the last panel until now. Human resources, still a big issue here. Yes. The idea of producers who are at least experienced enough to write their names properly, or to know that the synopsis is not.
That's why experiences like Ties That Bind here is very important, I think.
Okay.
So I was asking the same question: is it a mistake for our side or from the other side? Well, for us as a financier and producer, a few years ago, if everybody was familiar with the Chinese market, it's a bubble of IP purchasing trend that the people just spending so much money into buying IPs, and of course we're one of them. We have a huge library of IPs. We still haven't got the capacity to develop,
Right.
even half of them. So I would say that trend has been gratefully is subduing. It's a good thing because our producers and directors, screenwriters are more concentrating to develop really quality contents, not so heavily rely on IPs. And we are gradually getting more and more healthier in terms of focusing on storytelling, so creating good contents. So that relates to the other side of I wouldn't necessarily say it's a mistake. because we are financier and also producer, so we're constantly being approached by maybe directors or filmmakers just sending me, okay, this is my script, read it. Oh, okay, this is my concept, but they're not quite elaborate on how this project look like, give you a better vision or introduce them enough. You know, it's a very I would say not an effective way to reach out to financier, because I'm speaking from the financier perspective.
Right.
Because it requires us time to evaluate your project, and before you reach out, you need to be more prepared. Tell me where where do you come from with the idea, and where you want your project to be developed into, so that we'll get a better sense to evaluate. And it's obviously it's only one chance with us, because reading a whole script is impossible because we know nothing about you. So it's not about mistake. I think it's just experience with people who trying to pitch their projects to the financiers. That's what we have been experiencing.
Right. Which is, so again, it seems very strange, but these are all very, very basic mistakes. You know, people think. Yes, please, Jeremy.
Okay, yeah, so my approach is a little bit more VC, it's a little bit different from these guys, different wallet sizes, some of you. But I'm going to focus on the top 1% of the talent pool. This doesn't mean the top 1% most famous filmmakers, but the top 1% most talented filmmakers who haven't made it yet. And I felt that the biggest issue there is that the talent is, to me, so obvious, but there's just a little piece that stops that filmmaker from making something really powerful and really popular and really watched by a lot of people. Two countries where that happens a lot to me are projects from Japan and Indonesia, but you see that from elsewhere as well. For example, last year I was invited by Robert De Niro has this initiative to identify emerging filmmakers. And part of it covers Asia, so I was in the talent jury, and we saw a lot of projects. And the first project that everybody else wanted to kick out was an Indonesian project, because it was so poorly packaged, the pitch was so inarticulate.
But surely that's not the fault. I mean, it's not really the fault of the filmmaker if it's not.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Okay.
So I vetoed. You know, so he would have been eliminated in the first round. I kept the project afloat till the final round. He ended up being the runner-up. I ended up converting some of the jury, but then in the end they said, well, if this guy gets through, are you going to take him on board? He you know, the vision as he is so inarticulate. He needs a full-time producer. Are you going to give him that time? I said, well, I'm not, right? So, so I think that to me is a common failing in our very best talent, the ability to articulate the vision, to package it, and somebody to help them bridge that final step.
Right. Well, I mean, again, it's, you know, every Steve Wozniak needs a Steve Jobs, you know, and maybe that's what we have. We've got a lot of Wozniaks as we don't have that many Jobses. Coming to Dhruv, I just wanted to ask you, because you come from a studio perspective, and you know, it is a very rational, motivated oriented place. How do you protect your investment? I mean, what kind of mechanisms do you use? You know, first.
There is no way of protecting your, because you own.
I mean, you're a smart man. Surely that's
100% is ours. So if it's good, it's ours. It's bad, it's ours.
Right.
It invariably we have. See, nobody can be 100% sure that the film will work.
Right.
No matter whether it's Rohit Shetty or Anurag Kashyap or Neeraj Pandey, they put in the best effort, and we back them. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, so be it. We are not there for one movie only. So we look at a period of 5 years, 7 years, and hopefully it works for all of us. I mean, there is no way of ascertaining that this will not. Just to give you an idea, I was talking to you earlier, is till October end, in India, we had 185 films releasing in Hindi language, the national language, out of which only probably 15 to 20 would have recovered their money.
Right.
So the rest, I'm talking about theatrical revenue only. The rest are going to lose their money. And some of them, if made at, say, $500,000, their revenue at theaters will not even be $100,000. So that is the difference, and that is, I'm not kidding, around 50 to 60% of the films that have been produced and released in India. So there is a very I don't know how to call that, but the audience are very, very specific, skeptical right now. They want to know what the movie is all about, only then they'll go. That's where social media comes in. They want to know if a big star is there, then they'll go. There's a one movie which has outdone all films ever in India, which was Bahubali 2. But there are only few of them. Our 3 movies made money. We have another 6, 7 which didn't make money. But then we even out over a period of 1 year. So there is no certain way of looking at things.
If the situation is that bad for getting revenue back from films, why hasn't the market shook itself up? Why haven't the investors who've lost money just left?
See, in our the way the deal has been structured, we invariably all the films will make money because of the IP that we control, as well as the revenue streams that are opening up, including digital, satellite. Satellite was always there, but digital is becoming a good support for us. So luckily we can reach out to the Amazons and the Netflix of the world, and that is helping us out a lot. So we will recover most of our funds. But having said that, people outside of studios, it's a bit of a risk because they don't have one big title and 3 other titles to push it.
Right. I mean, they can't cross-collateralize the
So that becomes a bit of a problem for them. But individual producers will face problems.
Right. If I'm not wrong, one of your business models is also to buy remake rights from Hollywood.
We are, as a matter of fact, we're making a remake of our own Amblin film.
Right.
Girl on a Train. We're making into Hindi film.
So how far does something like a recognizable IP like that help you, say mitigate some of the risks that come with your investment?
It is a better way of doing things because again, as I don't know how many of you are aware that India makes something like 50 or more films in 9 different languages. So there are, if you calculate, there are 500 stories every year coming out. All you have to do is recognize, remake, and then hopefully it works. We are the biggest director that we have, Rohit Shetty. We have a remake of a film that we are releasing next December. And everybody's very excited about that film. So there is an opportunity within the ecosystem. As well as my purpose of visiting here is also to look at projects that can be remade from ASEAN countries into India and vis-a-vis our content being remade into your local languages.
Okay. But surely conversely, I would think that maybe the branding that comes with that kind of remake isn't as extensive as something that comes from Hollywood. The branding in the country that's receiving the remake.
Not necessarily. I mean, a story does not have to have a branding or anything. If a story is good, it's good.
Okay.
And it works. If it works in India, it can work in China, it can work in Brazil, everywhere.
Right. Okay. Julie, I wanted to ask you a bit more about what kind of financiers are currently, in China, because the stereotype, at least when I was there, is your coal mine owner from Shanxi who doesn't care what the film is about as long as he puts his girlfriend in it, But your films, I think it's Meidu, was it? Meido. Yeah. It's not a typical mainstream Chinese film. What kind of Chinese investors invest in these kind of non-mainstream films? What's the profile of that? What's their profile? What drives them? What drives the money?
Okay, so in China, there are industrial financier and non-industrial, which means all kinds of sources of money that's coming out of film industry.
Yeah.
So our financiers, they are the number 1 angel investors from China called Gen Fund. There are 2 founders in collaboration with Sakura Capital. The founder, Niu Shen, so they founded a company. And the 3 founders are very, very trusting. So basically, me and my partner, we decide what kind of projects we will be developing and investing. So as you mentioned, Meido may not be a conventional commercial film, but it actually has some commercial values in terms of the production is in Tibet and in Lebanon. So recently we see that the Chinese audiences are not only interested in commercial popcorn movies from Hollywood, they're looking forward for more good quality contents that can be ranged from documentary and to very art house movies. For example, there's one Tibetan documentary that scored over 100 million RMB, which equals to maybe 15 million US dollars during the summer. So as you can see, the audience is getting mature and mature. So Mado is one of the films that are produced that we consider to be as more of the quality and very different. Maybe a black horse in the market type of a movie.
Exceptionally, I mean, it's something that, I mean, say 4 years, 5 years ago, you could not conceive of being financed within China itself. But maybe we're talking about the market there is so rationalized now. There's so many people coming in to the mainstream side that now they're looking for other opportunities of investment.
Because I think the audience is getting mature, and they know what they want. It's not like a few years ago they just consume whatever is available on the market. That's very irrational. But now they're getting more appetite, but more and more picky. So if you see all the big box office for movies, they all both score big at the. We have a Chinese version of IMDb, which give you all Rotten Tomatoes. They give you the scores in terms of how good this movie is. It's called a Douban. So you can see they are on average above 7 or 7.5. And for example, the Indian movie Dangal scored maybe 8.6. And also the Spanish film is called Invisible Guest. I think even higher, maybe almost 9. And it scored both very big at the box office. So how good the story is matters to the audience in China right now.
And I suppose it also puts paid to the saying that no one knows anything in the film industry.
Actually, I've got a question. I don't know, maybe it's for you or not. Somebody brought up a point I thought was quite interesting. She said, Dangal works really well in China because China has real social issues with like women's rights as well. But you cannot make a film about women's rights in China. But it's fine to make it about India.
That's also what they said about Avatar, because Avatar was really about land grabbing at that point in time, and everyone just went, oh yeah, this is this is a commentary, a social commentary.
This is what you shouldn't learn from India and the US, which is fair because in Singapore we do the same. Al Jazeera is such a progressive channel in Qatar, but do they cover any Qatari issues? No, right? So.
Yeah, but they cover a lot of Singapore issues.
I wouldn't necessarily call it because Chinese doesn't care about women's rights or it's bad. I think it's more. Please do not lead me to that direction. It's very controversial. I think it's because the movie is very relatable to the parents in China right now. Because Chinese parents are known to be very pushing. They're tiger mom type, which is specifically about Chinese mothers. So I think it's always about how the movies are related to our audiences. Either it's about emotional level, which I believe wholeheartedly, it has to be very emotionally relatable. And second is how good a story is.
Okay, before I open it up to the audience, just very quickly, Thierry, I just want to ask you, you're the outlier in this panel because your funding is not really all that profit motivated.
Absolutely not. And even it's very specific in Europe and in the world because it's a fund. If you have the money, you don't have to spend 1 franc in Switzerland. You don't have to.
Where do I sign up?
A Swiss co-producer. It's really for helping, But maybe it's amazing for me because before being artistic director of the festival, I was a journalist, and for 25 years, I began when I was almost 10. Because I was always passionate. But after 25 years, I was written for the 10th time about a James Bond movie and for the 15th time about a Spider-Man. And when came this application for Fribourg, I just made it and I discovered the other side of the world. And the other side of the world is you. You know, we don't know, you know, the public in Switzerland and basically in Europe and United States don't know anything of what's happening in China regarding, you know, the success of some films. I created in my festival some, I'm trying to screen art house and also commercial, because I believe if you want to understand China, you just don't have only to screen the Wang Bing documentaries, you know, because otherwise you see just one part of it. You should screen also Wolf Warrior 2, you know? Because Wolf Warrior 2, when you see that in Europe, it's really, how can the world be seen this way, you know? When you are European, it's very specific, very interesting.
In fact, it is an interesting film that completely negates the European experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will screen it, you know, because I think it's very interesting for the people to understand how some Chinese maybe understand the world and see the European and you know, the blue helmets and the Americans, and it's very interesting how they see Africa. And even if it's a hero story, you know, we were also in Europe completely parasited by American heroes. And it's good to see these American Chinese guys. And you know what I hear about what you said, that finally, after these years of growing, the quality is becoming important. Maybe the gap will be narrower and narrower. Because I have to say something about the facts. One very specific and important thing. We should build bridges between the film you are making and the Occidental or Western countries to understand each other. It's very important, you know, because you are creating the world of tomorrow. You know, we see that in Europe. And we have to understand how you think things. And no media is better than cinema to understand things, for me. When we received the application, and I said that the other day to a roundtable, it's pretty rare that in the application we understand the visual thing they want to sell us. I would say only 10% are bringing something else than the script. And it's very dangerous, you know, because I am a film lover for so many years. If you give me only the script, not telling me it's in black and white and color, it will be with big stars or not, I will create my own film in my mind. And as I said, my own film is very bad because I am not a filmmaker, you know. And I would say even the other thing, and it's very important to think about it, you know, sadly, if you want to conquer Cannes Film Festival, because it will begin there in the festivals, is that this democracy of cinema nowadays make that there are more and more and more movies. And as artistic director and as expert for a fund, I have to confess that I am watching the 10 first minutes, you know? Right. Because otherwise I can't see everything. And when the 10 first minutes seems interesting, I watch all the film. Right. But it's 10%. Okay. You know?
So get to the point basically with your films, if you want to get through to the gatekeeper, so to speak. Yeah. Okay, we're going to open it.
Can I just...
I'd like to open it. Well, okay, maybe very quickly, very quick point.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. First 10 minutes. Before this, I used to do work in content in Europe, and it's the same policy with, for example, the bookstores, the big chains. They read the first chapter, they read the title cover. Yeah,
and if it's good, it goes on.
Don't hold off the good stuff to the end, please. Okay. Please, give a little bit in the beginning. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we have less time than I thought we would have, but questions? Who wants to pitch something? Maybe not now, but questions. No? Okay, right in front there. Thank you. Sorry? Yeah, I know. No one wants money? What's going on? These guys have it all. They've got tons of money.
Yeah, my name is Nilendra Deshapriya. I'm from Sri Lanka. It's very interesting when listening to theory about his fund, and also when we see from the other side of the world, from China, Singapore, and India, of course. So is there I was very carefully listening to that what always goes wrong in submitting applications. If you could kindly rather little bit elaborate on, I know of course the funds, they have the standard forms, but to reaching out the companies like Reliance and Aurora Global Media or Jubilant Pictures.
Okay, so
Is there a way of doing the paperwork, a proper way?
right.
Can you elaborate, please? Thank you.
As far as Reliance is concerned, everybody, there's no such form or format. You have to just send us a concept note on our email IDs that are, incidentally, my email ID is on our website. So you can send it to us, and we get tons of them. We do whatever we like. We scrutinize. We have a couple of people who scrutinize and then forward it to the right people.
What would a concept note contain for you? Obviously not the script, surely, but what would it contain?
It varies. It is horrendous to great.
What do you want to see then?
A good concept, to be honest with you. Even I
We're going
wouldn't.
around in circles a bit.
Even I wouldn't be the right person to judge. If it, see, the thing is, my that particular ID can be accessed by the two people who are in charge to look at those projects.
Okay.
So they can access it. They can have a look at it, and then they can take a judge whether or not this is good enough to move forward.
Well, how would a producer, an independent producer, protect himself in that sense? Because there are no NDAs being written, there are no NDAs being signed, there are no, How do you protect yourself as well? Because who's to stop someone from saying, hey, I sent something to you 3 years ago and now it's in a film that you're doing? That just made like $1 billion.
We have faced such kind of problems, but then that's how things work. I mean, it's not like if an original concept is coming to you, the person would not say the entire thing. He would just give you a 4, 5, probably half a page. That's about it.
Okay.
If it's that very good.
Right.
And the way it works in India is you have to know somebody to come back and come back to us. And it's a better way to work, because if you simply send a concept, I mean, I'm just being devil's advocate here. I would probably say, forward that email to Jeremy and ask him, does this work for you? Me and Jeremy will make a lot of money then. But then that's not how it works.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Okay. Yes, right behind there, man in black.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christopher from Malaysia. I have a question here. Like, you guys keep talking about good contents and very good stories and stuff like that. But may I know, how do you guys define what is the good contents? And like, for most of the time when we present our stories or contents or concept to financiers or to broadcasters, they will come back to us and saying that, wow, your content is good, but there's always a but behind it. And it will be something like, okay, it's about territories, it's about like cultures, it's about, they can have everything to tell you like, okay, this thing is not going to work, but you have a very good concept. So I think these things is like, I think most of us, like, we face this question as well. Like, we would like to know like how you guys define the good contents despite all these bad things. Yes, thank you.
I fear this is probably another unanswerable question, but I'll let you guys try.
Let me try first. I can only speak from our perspective, what is good for us, because we're mostly focusing on projects like adapt from true story, which is an eye-catching element for us. Our movie project mostly developed from true stories. That's because you have something on the ground, which means you have something you can develop from. It's I think it may be harder to develop a very original idea that nobody has seen, because under the sun there's nothing new, right? So if it's based on a real story, that we will take a more close to it. And good story-wise, also we will look at the creators' track records and visual side, visual audio.
Yeah.
If you can submit also your previous work,
Right,
and we can
right.
get an idea of, what's a sound like.
Yeah.
For example, for Lamado, the director, we actually look at her previous short, and we think, that's exactly what we're looking for our new movie. That's a good match. So that's definitely help.
Okay.
So if you have a good track record of your previous short or feature, and that's absolutely is a bonus or +1.
Right, right.
I'll just elaborate what she's saying. I'll give you an example what happened with a particular film. I will not name it because all of you guys will go ask for the remake of that film. What happened was there was a small film made in a regional language in India. Then it was remade in 4 different languages in India, with the top guys asking for that film, and they all made money. And then it came to Hindi films. Then another studio made a film out of it. They also made money. So once the content is there, when it's accepted, it moves on. And then people look after. And then the guy who's made that content has not been able to think of another content since last 6 years.
Right.
So, it is also difficult for...
So even then, track record, like they put in, financial prospectus, previous track record doesn't necessarily indicate future success.
It can, but again, there are very few people who have given constant good content.
Right,
It's very difficult for, I don't know how many people, at least in Indian context, I can only see a couple of them. Even in the twilight of their career, they lost the plot. Yeah.
Theory?
Yeah, of course, in my perspective, it's completely different in a way. I would say, before I came at Vision Sud-Est, for example, and in the previous years of Fribourg, the 21st years, from the 80s to the 90s, it was all about the content, and meaning the subjects, and it was meaning if you have the portrait of a poor people in Africa, it was interesting, and we brought...
It is a very Eurocentric sort of...
I did fought a lot against that, saying we had to find a vision. And when I say vision, the other day, the 2 last days, I just met the projects. And sometimes you see that the film is already in the head of the author. Maybe it's because I'm coming from Europa, but la politique des auteurs, for me, the film should be made by the filmmaker and not by the producer. The producer is there to support a project he believes in and make everything in place to make that the filmmaker make the film according to his vision. And I think, even the greatest American directors are succeeding like that, like Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg. They had, at the beginning, producers bringing...
So, if I may just try to summarize, basically, if you can see the passion, if you can see the drive within the director to know exactly what he wants to do, that gives you more confidence in supporting him then.
You know what happened after that? After that, the 4 of us, meaning Fribourg, Nyon, Locarno, and Trigon, who are in the Vision Sud-Est, at every session we had at least a film in Cannes or in Berlin or in Venice, coming from these countries here.
Right.
So it means that we paid attention to the artists, not guys coming from a school and going to Bind and knowing how to make a movie. We had to feel the need, almost a question of life and death of making movies.
Right.
And it's rare, because it's easy to make a movie, in fact. But making when you see some movies, you see that it's really too easy. But in fact, if you feel this need, I think your film will travel.
Right.
I'm not talking about commercial success. I'm talking about how to do that. The doors open everywhere.
Yeah. I think we get your point. This one over here. Thank you. Yeah. Sir.
As successful financiers, what are the additional income streams that you look at, perhaps even insist on, as you go through the material package? Beyond the content, as financiers, you're looking for a return, recoupment, and profit. So what are the additional income streams you look at when you're considering
I think
those?
does that come into your calculation?
All aspects. It covers all aspects, including once you have the IP, you're looking to milk the product as much as possible. Like some films, Indian film, have been, there was a film released in 1975, the biggest hit of India, Sholay, even today, gets you serious money on television. So there you keep milking it. I'm talking about 40 years from then. it is still giving it releases in theater, still makes money. So I'm talking about the longevity of a good product. Other than that, definitely digital is a new avenue that has opened up. Remakes is one thing that is opening up. And yeah, these are two things that I think has opened up.
Right. Anyone to add? If not, okay, please.
I want to add one more point for us. If it's a project that has potential, not only necessarily get the revenue from the box office, but also it's a format that can be developed into multiple formats. For example, theater play or web
Internet
series
novel.
like spin-offs.
Right.
So which means you can different platforms you can recoup your investments.
Right. Okay. Okay, that's a good point. Yep. Please.
Yeah, just a quick one, just for the audience here today, because in the last couple of days I've seen so many projects. There were two projects that kind of stand out, and I thought those projects, they can either hold it for like 5-10 years and make it perfect on a $10 million budget, or they can do it within the next 12 months on 300,000, and then focus on the remake. And I think
So the first,
for
second step would be better.
yeah, I think for our region at this point, it's
Just
more
do it.
about getting it done and then do the remake, and the next one, you know, when you've done the first one well, do it big. Yeah.
Our time is actually up, but is there anyone with one pressing question that they want to ask, that they desperately want to ask? No? Going, gone. Thank you all very much
Thank
for
you,
a great
Marcus.
panel. Thank you.